I come from the net, through systems, peoples, and cities to this place, fun with flags. My format, host, to mend and defend and describe. To defend my newfound friends, their hopes and dreams, to defend them from their enemies. They say the user lives outside the net and inputs games for pleasure. No one knows for sure, but I intend to find out. ReBoot! Hey, everybody, and welcome to...
Protect the world from devastation. To unite all people within our nation. Oh, no? We're not doing that?
No. Hey, everyone, I'm your friendly neighborhood soda, joined as always by my friend from the Middle East, 50. How's it going?
You know, the Middle East.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all you need to say, right? Today, for those of you Canadian viewers, if you couldn't tell from my haphazard intro, we are doing a deep dive into the legendary Canadian computer-generated series ReBoot. So I know you've heard me discuss it before, but 50, do you have any knowledge of the show ReBoot?
I just know it's the first ever fully CG animated TV show. That's about it. And it's mostly just, it shows up on a lot of Watch Mojo lists. That's what I can say.
100%.
Positively.
Oh yeah, no, this show is definitely got a good legacy ahead of it. Very much of its time. I'm just gonna dive right into it because, as you can see, I got a lot of notes. Okay, so the show follows the adventures of a guardian named Bob and his companions Enzo and Dot Matrix within the computer system world of Mainframe, as they work to keep it safe from the viruses known as Megabyte and Hexadecimal, in addition to other threats. Recurring plot threads include the user loading a game into the system, manifesting as an electroviolet cube lowered onto another part of the city. Anyone trapped inside becomes NPCs and have the chance to play against the user. If the user wins, the area is destroyed, aka nullified, and the residents are reduced to leech-like creatures called nulls. The setting of the inner world of a computer system known by its inhabitants as Mainframe was deliberately chosen due to technological constraints at the time, as the fictional computer world allowed for blocky-looking models and mechanical animation. Season 1, each installment of the first season was a self-contained episode except for the two-part finale. When the user loads a GameCube drops on a random location in Mainframe, sealing it off from the rest of the system and turning it into a gamescape. Bob frequently enters the games, reboots to become a game character, and fights the user's character to save the sector. If the user wins a game, the cube falls and is destroyed, and the sprites and biomes who are caught within are destroyed into energy-draining, worm-like parasites called nulls. When this happens, they are said to be nullified. So the first season is just standalone episodes, nothing special. Season 2...
I got that too much.
The second season was initially as episodic as the first, but later featured an extended story arc that began with the season's 5th episode, Painted Windows. The arc revealed that Hexadecimal and Megabyte are siblings and introduced an external threat to Mainframe, the web, which I actually do have a picture, but I think it's later. Anyways, which was set up in fearful mentions in High Code and Painted Windows. The 6 episodes, Andrea... Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Sorry. I had my papers on the keyboard. The 6th episode, Andrea, also saw a new character in the titular Andrea joining the cast. A creature from the web entered Mainframe from Hexadecimal's Looking Glass, which was shattered by Micah TV bonding with her. Mainframe's nulls reacted spontaneously and covered her to form a monster called Nullzilla, which was defeated and neutralized by the protectors of Mainframe. The web creature located Megabyte. Gigabyte was eventually neutralized as well, but the web creature escaped into the bowels of Mainframe, where it began stealing energy to stay alive and grow. Mouse, a reactionary and old friend of Bob's, helped to find the web creature, but was almost destroyed by a bomb set by her employer. That's Gigabyte. By employer Turbo. The explosion created a tear, an unstable energy-based anomaly, which the web creature used to create a portal to the web. The protectors of Mainframe had to team up with Megabyte and Hexadecimal to close the portal. An army of CPU police collided with an invasion of creatures from the web. Amid the chaos, Megabyte betrayed the alliance with the CPUs calling the ABCs treacherous dogs, crushing Bob's key tool glitch and sending him into the web portal before closing it. In season 3, initially Mainframe thought they would Mainframe Studios, which is the company that founded the show. They initially thought that they would follow up the second season with a film. The treatment was called Terabyte Rising, but was to include flashbacks to the destruction of Mainframe's Twin City. This was dropped, but much of it would be used for the fourth season. So the show's third season exhibited a marked improvement in modeling and animation quality due to the advancement of Mainframe Entertainment's software capabilities during the time between seasons. Subtle details, such as eyelashes and shadows, as well as generally more lifelike polygonal characters, were among several visionary improvements. The show's target audience shifted to children at age 12 and older, resulting in a much darker and more mature storyline. After severing ties with ABC during following the second season, the show reached a greater number of households through syndication. So the character of Enzo for the first 2 seasons, freshly upgraded into a Guardian candidate by Bob during the web incursion, defends Mainframe from Megabyte and Hexadecimal, with Dot and Andrea at his side. When Enzo entered the game, he could not win. He, Andrea, and Frisket changed their icons to Game Sprite mode and rode the game out of Mainframe. The accelerated game timeline resulted in Enzo and Andrea's aging. Subsequent episodes would follow adult versions of Enzo and Andrea, who are now in a romantic relationship, naturally, as they travel from system to system in search of Mainframe. The older Enzo adopts the name Matrix, his and Dot's surname, carrying a weapon named Gun and Bob's damaged glitch. The time spent in games away from Mainframe hardened both Matrix and Andrea. Matrix developed a pathological hatred of viruses and grew into a muscular, shoot first, ask questions later antihero, while Andrea turned into a level-headed warrior. As the season progresses, Matrix and Andrea are reunited with Bob and the crew of the Saucy Mare and return to Mainframe, which has been almost destroyed by Megabyte and his forces. The group reunites with Dot and the Resistance, then heads to the principal's office for a final battle with Megabyte. Megabyte is defeated by Matrix, but not before Megabyte's handiwork caused the system to crash. All final problems in Mainframe were dealt with by the user restarting the system, setting everything right, and restoring everything as it was again for the protagonist, with one major exception. Younger and older Enzo now exists simultaneously, as Matrix's icon was still set to Game Sprite mode and was not recognized properly by the system when it rebooted, so the system restored a copy of his younger self.
Starting to sound like a comic book show.
It kind of is. Season 4, at the end of this third season, 2 TV movies were produced in 2001, which these ones I've never seen. Damon Rising, which addressed the problem the Guardians were facing in Season 3 and used much of Terabyte Rising, and My Two Bobs, which bring back a corroded and mutated Megabyte in a cliffhanger ending. The 2 movies, broken up into 8 episodes in its U.S. run on Cartoon Network's Toonami, revealed much of Mainframe's history, including the formation of Los Angeles, Bob's arrival in the system, and the origin of Megabyte and Hexadecimal. The films end with Megabyte in control of the principal office, and the characters scattered around and about to be hunted down. It is revealed that the Nulls still possess their old sentience and intelligence. The heroes managed to put the Null that was once Dot's father, I'll get to that later, into a robot, enabling him to move and speak like he used to. Initial plans for the third season included 3 films broken into 12 episodes, followed by a 13th musical special episode. Due to a change in deals and budgets, the series was reduced to 8 episodes. The following plan was to produce 30-second episodes. These would have been edited down to 21 minutes for broadcast, and the extra scenes added to the film versions for DVD release. Against the writer's wishes, these scenes were cut from the scripts. After this decision was made, the 8th episode was rewritten to end on a cliffhanger. Creator Gavin Blair has publicly refused to reveal the plans for the resolution and final episodes in case he ever got the chance to resolve the cliffhanger.
And did he?
No. It's never
Yeah,
Okay, so now we are on to the characters. So now you'll be able to see what context here. Okay, so first up we have Bob. Guardian 452 and the defender of Mainframe from both internal and external threats. Bob is often criticized by other Guardians for his unorthodox views regarding viruses. Unlike other viruses who believe that viruses should simply be deleted on sight, Bob theorizes that viruses can be reprogrammed to live as sprites. He cites hexadecimal as proof of his theories. Despite this criticism, Bob is still respected as one of the finest Guardians ever to come out of the Academy. Compared to Dot, he usually does things on the fly and in an extremely casual and laid-back hero in the first two seasons. After living and partially degrading in the harsh web under the alias of Interface, he becomes slightly more cautious, more sensitive, and less impulsive than he used to. Despite the differences in personality, he and Dot develop a romantic tension that results them in coupling at the end of the third season. He is equipped with a Guardian tool, Glitch, which can transform into any device with a voice command. When a Guardian is first introduced to a key tool, they exchange code. In seasons 3 and 4, Bob bonds with Glitch, referred to in My Two Bobs as Glitch Bob, and gains energy-based key tool powers. As Glitch was broken at the time, and because Bob's code was missing from Glitch, Megabyte had stolen the code from Glitch before crushing at the end of season 2. The merger did not work. The continued use of his powers, including rebooting, led to total fragmentation. Eventually, they were separated. Glitch, now upgraded in design and power, regained his original form. While he was always in favor of non-violent situations, in season 4, Bob opposed the deletion of virals under any circumstances, which caused conflict with other characters like Matrix. The reason for this change, as he had deleted viral binomes by destroying ABC Craft before, was not directly expressed on the show, but presumably it was the result of both Hexadecimal's reprogramming and experiences of war-torn mainframe. Bob's name was chosen by the members of the production team after they saw an episode of British sitcom Blackadder and were amused by the way actor Rowan Atkinson pronounced the name Bob. It is also short for Blighter Objects, which are a graphic element in Amiga computer systems.
Okay.
Whoops, this is out of order, that one. Next up, we have Dot Matrix. The daughter of leading mainframe scientist Wellman Matrix. Dot originally was his assistant as a teenager. Now an adult and proprietor of Dot's Diner, Dot also acts as her younger brother Enzo's surrogate parent and guardian since the loss of their father. What became of their mother is never mentioned in the series. She later became the command.com of mainframe in place of Fogg. She is admired for her brilliant and invaluable tactical skills, which lead to her becoming a workaholic with business interests in most of mainframe. Although she and Bob took until season 3 to admit it, they are attracted to one another, and this sometimes leads to awkward moments between them. When their father was nullified in the Twin City explosion, Dot and Enzo became each other's only remaining family, and for a long while, she was adamant about keeping him out of games. As Command.com, she had to fight 2 successive viral wars from a position of inferiority and was forced to make many morally gray decisions, such as having Enzo go into a game and stay there until he grew up into a new Matrix as an insurance policy. It is a sign of her tactical skill that she was able to keep fighting against Megabyte even with the loss of Enzo in the principal office, and then be able to cause some serious damage to Damon. The emotional stress of the viral wars took their toll after the defeat of Damon, and she fell into Megabyte's plan to impersonate the original Bob out of a desire to get back to the good times and forget all the pain and horror. After this, she came up with a plan that captured Megabyte and his entire neo-naval army in one swoop. But this was undone when it was revealed they had only caught a copy of Megabyte and the real virus was inside the war room. Her name is a reference to the method of using an array of dots to generate characters, symbols, and images. The dot matrix was once widely used in the form of dot matrix displays and dot matrix printers. It is possible that her name may also be a hidden reference to a sentient machine with an identical name from the film Spaceballs.
Yeah, that's where my head went for first of all.
Sorry, what was that?
I said that was my first thought.
Yeah, and I could see I could see both reasons being 100% valid. Okay, next up we have Enzo Matrix, the one on the left.
I gathered. I didn't think it was the dog.
Dot's little brother, Enzo, hero worships Bob and intends to become a guardian. He has a crackling, mid-pubescent voice and often uses catchphrases like alphanumeric and high density in place of real-world expressions like cool and awesome to express enthusiasm. Enzo is very energetic and loves to play games like Jetball and Circuit Racing and eagerly heads into the games. Despite his youth, Enzo has proven to be extremely good at the games and has several times been responsible for winning them. adult version of Enzo Matrix due to the dimensional difference of the world game world in the middle of season 3 aged quicker, making the time frame in the game world seem longer than it is. Ashamed of the child he used to be, whom he viewed as weak after his vicious defeat by the user Zaytan, he prefers to be addressed by his surname Matrix instead of his given name, which reminds him of his childhood. With a cold and gritty personality, violent behavior, and a built like a tank physique, so physically built, in fact, that he was able to match Megabyte physically in a fight, he is nothing like the child he used to be. He was tempered by what was, from his perspective, a lifetime of fighting. Although he's quick to anger, he has still shown a desire to help those in need, albeit in a very gruff and violent way, and his quest to return to mainframe has let him bring many systems back from the brink of annihilation. He harbors an unparalleled hatred towards viruses and will not hesitate to delete them in a violent and merciless manner. He is in love with Andrea, who has now matured as well, but is also quite jealous and protective of her. Deep down, he had a fear that he might become, or already has become, a hate-driven, uncaring killer who had forgotten about his home and family and would end up like Megabyte. He had to face his fears and get past them in the episode number 7, which was based on the TV show The Prisoner. He would several times show an extreme temper, aiming a gun at Ray Tracer during arguments, for example, and he instinctively raises his gun when surprised by something that might possibly be dangerous, including if he is bumped into. His right eye was severely damaged in the lost game that took him from mainframe, but was at some point replaced with a cybernetic eye during his travels. This eye grants him extended visual powers such as magnified long-range visual and X-ray vision. Matrix has also acquired a firearm, the aptly named gun. Yep. Which has many functions that Matrix invokes with voice commands. Gun operates in a fashion like a guardian key tool, possibly because Matrix idolized Bob as a child. Matrix Mechanical Eye also works in conjunction with gun for lock-on targeting and tracking purposes. One of his gun's functions is Death Blossom Mode, a reference to the movie The Lost Starfighter, which allows the gun to hover in midair, spinning rapidly in 720 degrees, auto-locking to all targets in sight. It is being implied that the gun has extremely high caliber from single solitary blast to full delete rounds, among possible explosive capabilities when he is shown pursuing ships from the Saucy Mare. A ship he recovered from the Crimson Binome to travel to the web. Matrix also carried Bob's damaged Guardian Key tool Glitch, having recovered it as Enzo after Megabyte launched Bob into the web. Although this was mostly symbolic, as Glitch was rendered virtually non-functional, Matrix did continue to use Glitch for stats and information about games and systems he encountered. Unlike other Guardians, Matrix carried Glitch on the left side of his belt. Matrix returned Glitch to Bob when they were reunited in the webs. In a sign of development, Matrix finally spared a virus's life by not killing Megabyte when he was beaten and at his mercy. Having spent so long apart from mainframe, he is filled with the desire to defend his home by any means necessary, making it seem as though Matrix had become much more belligerent during the first part of Season 4, and this stance caused a great deal of friction during him and Bob in Damon Rising. Once Damon was defeated, the two were much more friendly to each other, though Matrix was always having to deal with anxieties of what to do now. There was no one left to fight. While he sometimes views the young copy Enzo as somewhat of an annoyance and grim reminder of what he used to be, he has come to accept the young Enzo as his little brother and strives to protect him from becoming like himself. With his tough guy attitude, similar look, missing eye, sleeveless vest, and fingerless gloves, and imitative dialogue, call me Matrix. Matrix is likely inspired by the character of Snake Plissken, or possibly the gruff, muscular, gun-toting anti-hero Cable of Marvel's Comics' X-Men franchise. Despite Matrix's appearance, his actual age is only 11 in binary due to accelerated game time. Sorry, just taking a drink.
Okay.
Next up, we have Frisket, who is a robot dog who is Enzo's pet, who acts in a threatening manner towards just about everyone other than Enzo and Andrea, with a particular dislike of Bob. Frisket has uncanny physical strength, comparable to that of Megabyte, being known to catch cannonballs and ABCs in his teeth. Frisket is extremely loyal to Enzo and would not hesitate to sacrifice his life to protect Enzo's. Frisket followed Enzo and Andrea into the games during Season 3. His name is derived from the masking technique that is used by artists. Next up, we have Fong.
What is that?
An old and wise sprite that serves as systems administrator and keeper of the core for mainframe who lives and studies in the principal office. Give me 1 second. I just double check and see. I have principal office as a picture. I'm just trying to see where it is in the picture. I didn't highlight it. This is what the principal office looks, by the way. It's basically like the center hub.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, the principal. I get it.
Yeah. Sorry,
Principal.
I thought I had I've actually highlighted to where I should bring up pictures, and for some reason I forgot to highlight principal office. Okay, so Fong, an old and wise sprite that acts as system administrator and keeper of the core for mainframe who lives and studies in the principal office. He's also the command.com of mainframe until passing the title to Dot. He is somewhat the evocative of Confucius, and often dispenses advice in the form of confusing and vague philosophical quotes gleaned from old README files. Very fond of Fong, one must defeat him in a game to be considered worthy of his knowledge. Fong is immune to infection by viruses, but not superviruses. Megabyte was never able to infect him, but Damon infected him quite easily. When the viral war started, Fong was an invaluable aid and comforter to Dot. He was captured by Megabyte, his head cut off, it was later reattached, don't worry, and had data extracted from his mind, but he refused to surrender and fought Megabyte to the last. One of his passwords was revealed to be yada yada yada.
Wonder where that came from.
Nah, yeah, right? Show about nothing.
Wait. Hold on. You can't just let it pass, right?
What? Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
All good, my friend. Fong always has the right equipment or knowledge, often handy in whatever sort of situation. In one episode, Bob was shocked to find that Fong had prepared a countermeasure specifically to handle a giant monster made entirely of nulls stomping around the city. I actually remember that one. He acts like a wise therapist who many come to for advice about their problems, but most of the time his advice isn't very helpful, and he urges for sprites to figure things out on their own. The character Fong's name is an allusion to the game Pong. He has a rule that anyone who seeks his advice must first play him in a game of physical Pong, shown on screen in the first 2 episodes, and to Fong shading, an interpolation method, itself named after computer scientist Bui Tong Fong, used in 3-dimensional graphics rendering. Fong shading was used to render this character as opposed to the simpler Gourard shading used on other characters. All right, so now we get to one of the few villains, Megabyte.
Whoa, this guy looks like a villain.
Now, this is the only one where I've mentioned who voices him, because I know you know the guy.
Okay.
The main antagonist of the series, Megabyte, voiced by Tony J. You know who that is, right?
Candyman, right?
Judge Claude Frollo.
Oh, that's Tony Jaa, the one I said.
That's Tony. No, Tony Jaa is an Asian martial arts actor.
I got my Tonys mixed up, but yeah.
No, Tony. This is Tony J, who's got that very distinctive voice. Even I knew that as a kid. It's like, holy shit, it's Frollo.
Yeah, that's Superman's grandfather.
Yeah,
guy from the asylum in
the Beast. Yeah, no, guy's a legendary voice actor. Yeah, he's out of everybody in this cast, he's the only recognizable name.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I included his name. Okay. The main antagonist of the series, Megabyte, is a virus originally operating out of the Silicon Tor in Sector 1000 and dominating most of G Prime. Megabyte plots constantly to corrupt and control Mainframe to turn into his own domain, Megaframe, and from there infect the supercomputer and then take the entire net. The secondary objective is to destroy his sister Hexadecimal, which is apparently just viral sibling rivalry. He has a brutal, almost psychopathic nature and speaks with a deep British accent. Megabyte possesses fantastic physical strength, super agility, and reflexes, as well as the ability to jump great distances. His appearance consists of a mechanical humanoid with Wolverine-like extendable claws on his knuckles. He has an exceedingly cunning intellect, as well as the ability to infect and control objects. Another ability he has shown is the ability to read memory from certain sprites, namely Fong when he was infected. He also manages to steal Bob's exchange Guardian code with Glitch. Megabyte has no sense of morality and consistently takes advantage of others to achieve his own ends. He also seems immune to the energy-draining effects of nulls, as he has been seen holding his pet null Nibbles, who he once called father. Megabyte can also store codes to control programs and functions of whatever system he is in, provided he has been given said codes. These programs are controlled by buttons located under a panel in his left arm. Megabyte also has a sense of humor and musical talents, as shown in the episode Talent Night, which is in the first season. When he crashed into Enzo's birthday party accompanied by armed guards, but instead of his usual evil tactics, he began to play a rock song on a forked guitar, which led to his and Bob's famous rock duel. Afterwards, Megabyte remarked, "I've always wanted to do that," and left, but not before giving Enzo his guitar as birthday gift. Megabyte's origin is revealed in the fourth season. He and Hexadecimal were once one virus known as Kilobyte, who I do have pictures later right here. That's Kilobyte, who was scheduled for deletion by the Guardians, but upgraded into Gigabyte, who I just realized I don't actually have a picture of. Fuck. Anyways, he and Hexadecimal were once one virus, Kilobyte, who was scheduled by deletion by the Guardians, but upgraded into Gigabyte before it could be carried out. He mortally wounded Bob's partner and moved in towards Bob before being accidentally teleported away by Wellman Matrix's gateway device. The results were devastating. The destruction of Mainframe's Twin City, creating Los Angeles, everyone present being nullified, including Wellman, who became Nibbles, and Gigabyte being split into Megabyte and Hexadecimal. Upon being separated, Megabyte observed his surroundings and walked off, intent to carry out his agenda on an unsuspecting city. While always a villain, in earlier episodes, Megabyte was often involved in humorous situations and rarely caused permanent damage. The exception to this was the first episode, The Tearing, where he deliberately causes a whole sector to be nullified. As time went on, and especially after ReBoot was no longer in the ABC network, he became far more evil. He appears to have some small sense of humor, shown in one instance when Bob saved his life. Megabyte later let Dot go in the same episode, after which he commented, "Now we're even." In the final episode of Season 2, Megabyte worked with Mainframe to close the web portal that had opened in Mainframe, but not without heavy cost. Unfortunately, just before his hardware was fired at the portal to close it, he threw Bob into a rocket and sent it soaring into the portal. The portal was then closed, and he had his army move to crush the remaining defenders, or as we know them, CPUs, of Mainframe. For the first 3 episodes of Season 3, he had complete air supremacy and full reign of Mainframe while his defenders were trapped in the principal office. He also left Enzo alive so he could launch a propaganda campaign focusing on how the Guardian was an inexperienced boy. Yes, one thing I forgot to notice is in this first episodes, Bob has basically recruited Enzo to the ranks of Guardians. So for the first few episodes of Season 3, he is a Guardian. He also left Enzo alive so he could launch a propaganda campaign focusing on how the Guardian was an inexperienced boy, thus demoralizing the denizens of Mainframe. Obscenely, he also imprisoned Hexadecimal and forced her into becoming a living weapon, electrocuting her viciously via a collar at the slightest whim. "Rather good, isn't it?" he remarked to Enzo about his latest weapon. He was finally trapped behind an inverted firewall that covered all of G Prime. Unfortunately, shortly afterward, a rampaging Hexadecimal took out the firewall, resulting in war between the viruses that devastated G Prime, including the Tor, and neighboring sectors. Needing a new base, and as the principal office shields were still offline, having been deactivated to provide energy for the firewall, Megabyte was able to conquer it by force. Mainframe became Megabyte's long sought after Megaframe. Instead of rebuilding it in his own image, as he so frequently says, he more left it as a decaying and devastated system that was perpetually on the verge of crashing. When Matrix and Bob returned to the system, Mainframe's rebels were finally able to bring down the viral forces. During the battle, Megabyte was confronted by Matrix, who was carrying his sidearm gun. Megabyte convinced Matrix to drop his weapon and fight him hand-to-hand, as the virus believed that the boy would be no match for him physically. However, this was proven to be false when Matrix ultimately defeated him in battle. Megabyte was enraged when Matrix spared his life, and as an act of desperation, he tried to escape to the supercomputer. However, Mouse managed to change the address of the portal Megabyte was using, and as a result, he was trapped in the web. He made a brief return in the form of a holographic simulation, which Megabyte had created to taunt anyone who went into the system's core to prevent it from crashing. Megabyte survived in the web due to sharing some of Bob's guardian code, and in the fourth season, he became a Trojan horse virus, gaining the ability to look and sound like any sprite or binome he is able to steal code from. He returned from the web in the form of Bob, circa seasons 1 and 2, deliberately trying to confuse everyone over who the real Bob was in order to attack his enemies emotionally. He had also switched objectives from world conquest to personal revenge. His plans worked so well, he almost ended up married to Dot, until Glitch retook Bob's stolen code and forced him back into his viral form. Megabyte immediately fought the real Bob, but he was surprised by Bob's increased power and was forced to retreat. Afterwards, Megabyte began building an army of neo-virals, but was swiftly captured by the CPUs along with his whole horde, or so everyone thought. That Megabyte was in fact an alias, a fragile copy of himself, while the real Megabyte had infiltrated the principal office in the form of Frisket. He swiftly infected the war room and had his enemies isolated throughout the building, telling them to prepare for the hunt. Megabyte has an unusual habit of separating his torso from his legs. Hold on. Separating his torso from his legs while he's plotting at the tour, and has a hovering chair to move him around while in this state. He has been in games 5 times, showing the ability to infect the user's in-game avatar. His last 2 games were played while he was disguised as Bob. He was able to reboot and handle the games quite well, though he asked Matrix to cheat in Panzu Heavy X when panicked about the number of opponents. His game appearance in Bad Bob, when a corrupted game merged him with a device stealing the core energy, was the Mega Truck. Bob drove him in this episode and was alarmed to discover the Mega Truck had no brakes. This character's name is a reference to a Megabyte.
Naturally.
Yeah. Nibbles, who is Megabyte's pet Null, whom he refers to as father several times throughout the series. Nibbles' identity as a sprite does not become clear until the 4th season. His name is a reference to a nibble, or a nibble with a Y, half of a byte.
By the way, that was Tony Todd, the one I was referring to, the caveman.
Yes. Yeah, both with really good deep voices, yeah.
And both named Tony.
Yeah, what are the odds?
And look, it's Sonic and Knuckles.
Actually, it's Hack and Slash. Hack and Slash are twin robots, identical in form except that Hack is red and Slash is blue. The pair originally served Megabyte, carrying out his orders, often in a very incompetent manner. Their first appearance had Bob tricking them into crashing into each other. By season 2, they had degraded in villainy to the point where they twice asked Bob for help. The episode Bad Bob, when trapped on a speeding Mega Truck, and the episode Nullzilla, after losing Megabyte's pet Null. And also assist him in battling Gigabyte, saving him at one point. Hack and Slash have great physical strength, and they once lifted and destroyed a very large bridge with ease in the episode Medusa, and both proved strong enough to punch the greatly sized Gigabyte out to the floor, or even high and far up to the sky. Hack is also once seen to have 3 arms. In season 3, they reconsidered their loyalties about being instructed to kill Cyrus, who had betrayed Megabyte. Though both were reluctant to carry out these orders, Slash freed Cyrus at the last moment. When Hack pointed out how mad Megabyte would be, Slash responded, what's new? I miss Bob. Bob always stopped us before we did anything bad. Now, nobody does. Meanwhile, Megabyte had grown wary of their incompetence and ordered them to take point when battling Hexadecimal. They were promptly blown to bits. Fong found and repaired them, as well as gave them PIDs, which I think is the symbol that I have on the back of the thing. I think that's what a PID is. I actually don't know. It's basically whenever they go into a game, they tap this and it turns them into whatever they need to be.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's it. I did never actually look that one up. And they switched sides to mainframe to work as bodyguards and gophers for Dot. Hack and Slash were the first regular characters to re-encounter the returned Bob and Matrix, and they were quite overjoyed to see them again. In season 4, they were often seen hanging around Enzo and helped him play a key role in stopping Damon. They also assisted in a game, the first one they were shown in since acquiring PIDs. Also, Hack refused to allow Slash to mention the M word out of fear that their old boss would ever come back. When Megabyte did return and began fighting Bob, Hack and Slash were unsure of whom to help. Later, they flew away screaming at the idea someone might be Megabyte. The two were last seen taking Dot out of the command center and panicking as Megabyte took over the principal office. Hack and Slash are frequently torn apart, although they seem to take it in stride. They used to talk in very babbling and overrunning dialogue, but halfway through season 2, they became more coherent. They are quite dim-witted and bubbling despite their strength. They have built-in jetpacks that allow them to perform and maintain VTOL flight. They can also control their limbs remotely. They often get blown up and can still operate every movable part, even though they are literally in 1,000 pieces. Their names are a reference to the hack and slash genre of computer games and the keyboard symbols hack and slash, which I didn't clue into me that that's what they were called.
Okay.
All right. So thoughts?
They didn't call them Rock'em Sock'em.
They do look like we're the Rock'em Sock'em robots. Yes. All right. Any other thoughts? As I'm halfway through the notes now.
Are these all the characters?
No. I got a couple. I got more.
Well, okay.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more characters.
Okay.
That's why I said there's no point in talking about other shows today. This is going to be an hour.
No, yep.
Okay. Now we're on to probably my favorite of the two main baddies, Hexadecimal.
Oh, it's nice to finally put a face on that name.
Yep. Not going to lie, I had a small crush on her when I was a kid. I need help.
No, you do not.
Hexadecimal, the self-proclaimed queen of chaos, is a virus operating out of Los Angeles. She is Megabyte's sister, serving as the chaos to his order. Her origin is revealed in the 4th season. Once again, she and Megabyte were once one virus, yada yada, skipping all that. Upon being separated, Hexadecimal observed her surroundings and, with a mask change, exclaimed, "I like it here." Hexadecimal is melodramatic and extremely emotional, able to switch emotions by a simple wave of her hand, which changes the no-style mask she wears and her emotions along with it. Is it you or me?
That was me.
Okay. The mask changes constantly in a slew of different ways, usually while obscured from the home viewer. Episodes 1 and 10 of Season 2 and Episode 4 of Season 3 showed her mask changing on screen in an instant. She has transfinite power reserves, meaning that she has near limitless stores of energy to draw from, and as such is quite powerful herself. Her powers include energy beams and fireballs, alternating gravity, once causing Bob to stop and hover in midair, and being able to fly, shrugging off severe damage and controlling nulls. She also has the power to open a portal to the net or web in her looking glass, and has also been seen taking control of system programs like the System Paint program. It is suggested that her powers are near infinite, but because of her madness, she is able to use them for anything constructive. Her vast collection of masks show her facial expression, thereby giving her a Harley Quinn-like appearance. The expressions shown in these masks can range from happy, sad, scheming, and even homicidal rage, which I've seen. Yeah, I think I found it, but I'm not going to point it out because it's going to be a little too hard. These masks also hold her power in check. When removed, as in the episode Painted Windows, her power escapes and continues to do damage to her environment, and she will overload and be destroyed if the mask is not replaced. She is a benign virus, meaning she does not infect other entities. Instead, her primary motive is to simply cause random chaos for fun, and to kill a Megabyte who kept trying to kill her, likely due to simple sibling rivalry. Due to her power and insanity, her fun nearly always led to mainframe crashing. She even once nearly caused it unwittingly when a web creature emerged from her mirror and possessed her. All the Nulls sensed this danger and covered her completely. The giant Nullzilla monster went on a rampage as, according to Dot, the possessed Hexadecimal was trying to escape. In Web World Wars, Hexadecimal was charged with powering the hardware that closed the web portal. Despite her interest in Bob, she knew of Megabyte's impending betrayal and even helped launch him into the web. After closing the portal, she aimed the hardware at the principal office. Megabyte merely saw this as a threat to force the mainframer's compliance to his whims, but she wanted to destroy the core, not caring that they would destroy the entire system, including herself. Luckily, a GameCube landed on top of the hardware, and the energy feedback from the cube, along with the energy charge that she had already infused in the hardware, seriously damaged her. Megabytes have subsequently had her rebuilt and had her enslaved as a weapon he could use against Mainframe via a collar around her neck that caused her extreme pain when she did not comply with his wishes. This served only to further elevate her rage against Megabyte. Though she appeared to be completely restrained, Hair Doctor theorized she was faking and liked being tied up, which Megabyte preferred not to think about. Because, siblings.
Yeah.
When she finally did escape Megabyte's control, her quote-unquote rattling of her brother's bones devastated G-Prime and the surrounding sectors. Spending the rest of her days lurking in Los Angeles, she made her presence known again with the return of Bob. When Bob returned, she abducted him for demented party games and would eventually have killed him. However, he was able to defragment her head with his new powers. His glitch powers were able to replace her mask and her insanity with a real face, which looked exactly like her mask but was able to move. And more harmless quirkiness. However, she still felt the need to off Hair Doctor and Bunnyfoot vengefully and comedically by turning them into biscuits. Yes, biscuits. Like I said, she's my favorite character. In the episode End Prog, with the system able to restart, Bob insisted that Fong give Hex an icon, or PID, there you go, it is the icon, to register with the principal office so she could be backed up. Mainframe restarted and a virus scan disinfected all the viruses, but Hexadecimal with the icon remained intact, remarking that the scan merely tickled. Hex, being her nickname for short, would also refer to her dark powers and the Medusa bug she used as a curse against everyone in Web World Wars. Mouse comments referring to Hex, "Just tell the witch to be ready," to which Hex responded, "I heard that, what a sweet thing to say." By Damon Rising, she had begun openly and heavily trying to seduce Bob. To make him happy, she used her powers to drive out Damon's forces. This weakened her powers enough for the viral scan, which had remained in her icon, to start again, and she covered herself with nulls to stop it. When the null cocoon fled as a game landed on her, she became a normal, powerless sprite wearing a new costume of white lace and gold, which I believe is this one, instead of black leather and red with normal-looking eyes and black hair. So this should be that picture right here.
Mm-hmm.
Strangely enough, Hex retained her control over nulls, even though the rest of her powers had been stripped away. Upon revealing her origin to Dot, she began referring to her as Sis. When Damon conquered Mainframe, Hex was rejected as an abomination by Damon for abandoning her viral code. At the end of the episode Sacrifice, with Bob in danger dying, she had given away her new life as a pure sprite to become her old, reckless, and insane viral self just to stop Damon. To do this, she absorbed Mainframe's core energy with the help of Fong and became as powerful as Damon herself to try to stop the infection. She failed, unfortunately, as Damon's Crohn virus, a virus defined to attack at a specific time, took hold of the net. I again, whatever that means. Hex did not realize the severity of her situation until Bob told her that she would not survive the crash. And she made the decision to fragment herself into the net as a benign virus to do everything that Damon had done. She took the cure from Matrix's icon and then gave young Enzo a special code in his icon that would later give his null father the ability to talk once more. Before she went in, she told Bob that she had always loved him and told Dot to take care of him. Her sacrifice symbolizes two themes previously stated in the show. Love conquers all boundaries, in the episode Andrea, Season 4, Episode 3. Hexadecimal decides to fight Damon's countdown to her love for Bob and desire for him to survive. And chaos will always triumph over order. It is the way of things. Damon's purpose is stated by Turbo to bring order to the net, and the self-styled Queen of Chaos fights her to a standstill and cures the net of the infection. Her name is a reference to hexadecimal notation. Mike the TV.
Any relation to Mike TV from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
That more than likely is where they got the name. It doesn't say it on here, but that's probably where they got the name. An annoying ambulatory television set from Bob's apartment who is constantly pitching bizarre products like the famous bucket of nothing, free for only $99.99. And that is exactly how he says it in the show.
Okay, I'll believe you.
I've seen that episode enough times in my child that I can remember the impression. Or simply rambling until somebody shouts at him to shut up. He is a seemingly obvious reference to Charlie and the Charlie Factory's Mike TV. Speaking into a microphone, he appears at random moments to irritate the rest of the cast. His remote control ran away, so he could not be turned off. He temporarily lived in Hexadecimal's lair when Bob left him with her to quote-unquote cheer her up after the events of Painted Windows. Mike keeps a secret that it is his fault the web creature was released into mainframe. When he played an opera for Hexadecimal, a singer's high note shattered her mirror and allowed the creature to get her, and thus he is indirectly responsible for everything that happened after that. Mike apparently joined Scuzzy as her helper. He stayed in her lair until he, Scuzzy, Hack, and Slash were scared away by Nullzilla and met up with Bob. In later seasons, he stars as a war correspondent for Mainframe, and during his brief infection by Damon, becomes a televangelist. In the episode Enzo the Smart, Enzo slows the clock cycles of all sprites, making them dumber than they actually are. Mike the TV was the only character not affected because, as Enzo noted, he cannot get any dumber. Captain Gavin Capacitator.
What?
Is a software pirate and captain of the Saucy Mare. He styles himself as the Crimson Biome. Capacitor is a one biome armed with a hook for a left hand and a peg leg in place for his right leg. He fits the pirate stereotype perfectly, complete with pirate catchphrase mutations such as shiver me templates and buy the code. At heart, he is a romantic, driven at times by a sense of humor, comradeship, and a desire to never go down without fighting. Captain Capacitor was referenced to Long John Silver and Captain Hook, naturally.
And there's Mr. Smee right there.
Yeah, I actually did include him as a character. I don't remember what his name is, but yeah, good stuff. He and his crew were only in the pirate game for the profit, raiding the ports of systems with lightning speed and coordination. But this ended when they arrived in Mainframe, and Dot showed him that he could make more profit by legitimate business. Gavin then became a business partner of Mainframe until its net portals closed after the web invasion. He did not get the chance to find new systems to trade with, as Damon took over and the Saucy Mare was forced to go on the run. Excuse me. The pirates teamed up with Matrix, Andrea, and Ray Tracer, entering the web to find and retrieve Bob. From there, they returned to Mainframe and assisted Dot's rebels in the war against Megabyte. To Gavin's regret, he had to sacrifice the Mare in order to wipe out Megabyte's remaining air force and mourn its passing. After the system restart, he worked on unrevealed missions designed to harry Damon. His last name is a reference to capacitors. His first name is clarified to be a reference to ReBoot creator Gavin Blair in the art book. In the art book, he used Gavin Capacitor as his image, and all three co-creators have one character named after them in previous episodes. Mouse knew Bob from back when he arrested him.
Mouse.
Not what you thought, eh?
Nope, not at all.
Mouse knew Bob from back when he arrested her from trying to hack into the supercomputer. A hacker extraordinaire with a sugary southern accent, she is equipped with a katana to cut her enemies into small pieces and a high-tech craft called Ship. Sometimes she is seen with another smaller sword, but she rarely uses it. It is probably a wakizasha to complete a samurai's daisho, which consists of the two aforementioned swords. She is first mentioned in the episode The Crimson Biome, which hints at an untold encounter between Mouse and the pirate crew of the Saucy Mare. Bob, imprisoned in the ship's brig, finds Mouse's calling card, which I also didn't bring up, but it's just a stylized drawing of a mouse. Basically, it's just, like the Jesus fish? Think that as a mouse.
Okay.
It's basically the easiest way to grab it. So basically, it's like you see the symbol, Mouse is nearby. On the wall, a clue to an avenue of escape. She first appears on screen in The Great Brain Robbery, hired as a mercenary by Megabyte. During the episode, she calls them Big Guy and Megababe. She turned against him when it became obvious she had been double-crossed and was engaging a small child. She later returned in Season 2 to save Bob and Dot from Megabyte and ended up as part of the main cast from then on. She had been hired by the Guardians to discover if there was a web creature in Mainframe. During the subsequent web war and then the viral wars, Mouse's hacking skills became a major asset in thwarting Mainframe's enemies, including developing a firewall so complex that Damon could not get through it and was blocked from multiple systems. Due to her invaluable assistance, Mouse is allowed to upgrade her icon, and Andrea's as well, to a full Mainframe icon, which, among other things, created a backup of her that allowed her to be restored along with the native Mainframers after the system crashed. Mouse's canines are developed into what looks like fangs, as specifically in the episode Trust No One. She is capable of snarling in a very animal-like way, displaying those canines as a threat posture. In the Great Brain Robbery, she growls in feral fashion at Megabyte when she tells her that he double-crossed whomever he pleases. She becomes a dear friend to Dot, as one whom Dot can confide into and lean on when no one else is around. During Dot's wedding, Mouse was her sprite of honor. At some point between the episodes End Prog and Demon Rising, Mouse began dating Ray Tracer, and clearly her name is a reference to the computer mouse. Andrea, it's pronounced, so it's spelled A-N-D-R, capital A-L-A, but it's pronounced like the Italian name Andrea is in Italian. A backup copy of a game sprite who met Enzo in an undersea-themed game. She fell in love with him at first sight. The original Andrea piggybacked her icon on Enzo's. This allowed the backup to escape the game and stay in mainframe with Enzo, but the original remained in the game. Because of the nature of the game from which she was born, Andrea has many mermaid-like qualities. She wears fish skin garments, wears starfish in her hair, which can be used like a shuriken with boomerang qualities, and utilizes some armaments as paralysis-inducing fingernails and a trident in combat. She also... I'm going to bring this one up. This is her as an adult now. She also possesses a superior hearing ability. In her younger form, she was new to the ways of systems, not used to anything but fighting users. She also appeared highly naive, such as believing Enzo's lies about being a guardian, though she later admitted she always knew the truth but didn't care because of her feelings for him. Over time, she began adapting and learning how to operate and knew to try to keep Enzo's confidence up during his early days as guardian. During the period of her and Enzo's journey through the games in search of Bob and the way back home, she matures into a statuesque beauty, as shown by that, who continually tries to temper her lover's cynicism and provides a more relaxed and diplomatic counterpart to Matrix. However, has shown to become very lonely when separated from Matrix. It is also during this time when Andrea improved as a warrior and gained engineering skills. During their journey, she is more than often the voice of reason, and despite Matrix's jealousy, befriends the newcomer Ray Tracer, who assists them in entering the web. Before entering the dimension, however, Andrea is bitten by a web creature that steals her energy as well as part of her code. Through much of the trip in the web, she remained in a comatose state while the others fought against the environment in search of Bob and the creature that bit her. Incidentally, Bob finds them and heals Andrea with the recovered code and energy. During Demon Rising, Andrea saves Matrix from being teleported to the supercomputer and is infected by Damon. After Damon's defeat, Andrea becomes a bridesmaid in Dot's wedding and is last seen with Mouse in the principal's office catacombs during the beginning of Megabyte's hunt. The AI in her name is capitalized as her name is a reference to artificial intelligence. That explains that. So it's not an L, that's an I. That makes sense. Okay. As an AI game sprite, she is designed to adapt to her surroundings and experiences. As a result, she is a more adjusted sprite than Matrix, despite suffering the same traumas. She also gets on better with the new young Enzo than Matrix does, effectively becoming a second big sister. Dot is still his first. However, Andrea is a Greek word meaning courageous. She also has a great fondness for motorcycles. Turbo, Prime Guardian and leader of the Guardian Collective. He is equipped with a Guardian key tool, Copland, which can transform into any device with a voice command. He speaks with a Texas accent. Turbo was forced to order the destruction of mainframe after a web creature arrived in the system. Turbo regretted the decision due to his friendship with Bob and secretly increased the countdown on the bomb he had hidden with Mouse. Although Bob got rid of the bomb, Turbo was considered by many to be an enemy after that. When Matrix encounters Turbo in a distant system, he is searching for Bob, the only Guardian known to not be infected by Damon. Turbo informs Matrix of the Damon threat as well as the necessity of finding Bob. As he could still fight the infection, Turbo promised to work against Damon from inside the Guardian Collective. However, when the two met, Turbo had sunk completely to Damon's infection. As a result of that, Copland, following Turbo's own orders, had left him. After being partially cured by Bob's incomplete Guardian code, Turbo provided valuable information which helped Mainframe fight back against the supervirus. After Damon's defeat, Turbo returned to his position as Prime Guardian. He later reunited with Copland when all the key tools returned to free Glitch Bob from his encasement. His name is possibly a reference to Turbo Mode, which increased the clock speed of some early Intel processors for faster performance. Copland is possibly a reference to the unreleased Copland operating system created by Apple. Almost done. Ray Tracer. A second-generation web search engine introduced in Season 3, he became a main character upon the return to mainframe. He is unique that as long as even a piece of his board exists, he will continue to live, as he and his board are the same entity. Sound familiar?
A little bit, yeah. I was going to say that.
Yeah, though they may be separated, as long as one piece exists, it will regenerate, and his body will as well. A side effect of this is that when he and his board are separated, any damage to his board is reflected on his person in the nature of a light that circulates on his body, shorting out. During Season 4 and beyond, he is romantically involved with Mouse. His icon resembles a Motorola logo, which is appropriate because Motorola helped to name his character. They also made a line of surfer modems. He also speaks with a strong Australian accent. An adrenaline junkie, Ray longs for adventure and loves the danger of exploring the treacherous realm known as the web. Captured by the Guardians for unauthorized net travel, he is rescued by a reluctant Matrix. After saving Andrea from a fleet of CPUs, he joins the crew of the Saucy Mare in searching for Bob in the web, acting as their guide. Matrix is, at first, angered by the surfer's presence due to his seeming attraction for Andrea, but grows to respect him as he risks his life to repair Andrea's damaged code. Ray was separated from the others when they neared the portal to mainframe, but returned to mainframe through the same portal Megabyte was sent through and remained to help the citizens evacuate into the principal office when the system was close to crashing. After the restart, during the war against Damon, Turbo claimed to Mouse that Ray had been infected. After Damon's defeat, Ray returned to mainframe with the pre-Season 3 Bob, unaware that he was Megabyte in disguise. Through Season 4, Ray was featured on several brief occasions but had no speaking parts. His name is a reference to a computer graphics technique, ray tracing, and his nickname a reference to web surfing. The symbiotic link between him and his board are similar to that of the Marvel character Silver Surfer, with the ability to easily travel in conditions that are otherwise dangerous to other beings. Also, in this series, Ray's board is called a baud, which is also a measurement of the rate for transmission. All right, 3 more.
Okay.
The Web Riders.
What the hell?
These are sprites that have survived the web, but at a cost. They no longer require sustenance from energy foods, but are deformed. Newer sprites keep their original appearance, while older ones start resembling web creatures. In the case of Bob, after his exile by Megabyte, his hair changed into a wave pattern, silver scales began to grow in his face, and his uniform began melting into his skin. One of the elder sprites only has one hand, a vaguely peg leg, and a face resembling the M-class web creature. While these sprites do not speak normally like every other creature, they do communicate through what appears to be a dial-up modem clicks. While not technically viruses, they have proven to be quite hostile in nature. Damon. A super virus bent on infecting the entire net, she succeeded in infecting the entire Guardian Collective, with the exception of only Bob and Matrix, and turned the supercomputer into her base of operations. She is religiously worshipped by those she infects and known to them as the Word and addressed as My Lady. Damon claims to strive for peace and unity in the net and is different from other viruses in that she does not seem to believe that what she's doing is wrong, seeing herself as Messiah trying to save the net. She speaks in a French accent and calls Mike the TV Michael and is depicted in the style of Joan of Arc, a petite female holy warrior. She is a disconcerting villain because whilst what she is doing is insanely evil, her personality is quite gentle and benign, like referencing to Mike the TV as little one and giggling. Despite her seeming benevolence, her infection turns people peaceful at the cost of their free will, to the point where they do not care if they die doing Damon's will. Excuse me. Her possessed guardians use lethal force, countering all resistance. A Guardian hit squad was sent to retrieve Matrix, who they mistook for Bob, while in presumably the early stages of her infection, and they are far more hard-edged than the infected Guardians in Season 4. Damon is complicated in her feelings. She has an interest in the concept of love, taking time to observe it, and stating that sprites are lucky because they can feel love when viruses cannot, or at least so she believes, given that Hexadecimal later violently opposes her almost purely based out of romantic love for Bob once she returns to her viral state. However, she also has pride as a virus because when she found out that Hexadecimal was helping the sprites and they become sprite-like, she was enraged. In fact, Hexadecimal is the only character in the entire series Damon shows true animosity towards, calling her an abomination and a disgrace to her kind. This animosity disappeared when Hex returned to her true form, Damon wondering why they were still fighting and stating that, as viruses, they should be friends. When her attempts to persuade Hex fail, she proves to be completely willing to continue their battle before her hourglass necklace empties its top half, sending her into the final stage of her attempted attack on the net. In the episode with no name, Turbo revealed Damon to be the one who sent the web creature to attack Mainframe in the first place during Season 2's Nullzilla. The reason for this is unknown, but as Season 2 also had a reference to the web getting out of control and invading systems, it may have been a diversionary tactic to keep the Guardians looking elsewhere. Better scenario, since Damon's army of Guardians lost their key tools after becoming fully infected, she had briefly lost her chance to fully infect the entire net. Since Damon had full access to the supercomputer and its records, she eventually learned of Kilobyte's upgrade to Class 5 virus Gigabyte, flashback to Season 4, Since Gigabyte has many high-level functions such as creating portals, it was necessary for Damon to gain control of Gigabyte. Unfortunately, soon after becoming Gigabyte, he was pulled into a portal to Mainframe and was split in two, thus creating Megabyte and Hexadecimal. After learning of the split, Damon sent the web creature to force the merger of Megabyte and Hexadecimal to create Gigabyte once more. But again, Gigabyte's life was shortly lived as he was later split by Bob. Damon's plot involves keeping net travel available, forcing systems to remain open by destroying their port controller towers so inhabitants cannot take their system off the net. As infected Guardians lack key tools, she needs to keep systems on the net to be able to infect them, as her army cannot create portals. This also keeps the systems isolated from each other, as no one system can stand against the supercomputer. Instead of infecting the systems outright, she puts her infection in egg-shaped viral bombs, which are then placed in system cores. At a specific point in time, they detonate and the whole system is infected. 92% of the net was infected as a result of this. Her plan was to infect the whole net, and then at a specific point in time, she would die and release the Crone device that would cause everything on the net to count down. When they reached zero, they would spontaneously delete. The net would be nullified in the peace of total oblivion. Her name is a reference to services running on Unix systems in the background, as well as the Greek word daemon. The word may be a reference to a unity of memory called the word. In her final scene, she reveals that the word is Kron. I am not an entity, I am a time. My time is now. The word is Kron. And Bob realizes that she is a Kron virus, an end to all things virus, possibly just as an entry in a Unix system's cron tab file, which is used by the cron process to run jobs at pre-selected times chronologically. It may also be a reference to Kronos, the personification of time in Greek mythology. The chant that Damon makes her followers say in a non-binary is a binary countdown. The first to do this is Deacon, who counts down his deletion at 101 binary. The full binary countdown is 101.0011.010, which is the binary representation of the number 666.
Hint, hint.
And now,
I thought her name was a reference to Matt Damon.
Ooh, man.
Or Alex Damon.
With apologies to Matt Damon, we run out of time. So now the final character, Wellman Matrix.
I wonder who she related to.
Right? Scientific genius and father of Dot and Enzo Matrix. He designed a gateway device that would have allowed mainframers to connect to outside systems, sending a series of pings into the net to locate and contact systems and then link to them. Unfortunately, Wellman's experiment backfired due to his gateway pinging Kilobyte and warping him into mainframe as Gigabyte. The resulting explosion nullified Wellman, split Gigabyte into the entities Hexadecimal and Megabyte, and destroyed mainframe's sister city, the ruins of which were later to be known as Los Angeles. As a null, he was adopted as Nimbles by Megabyte, who apparently knew his identity as he once referred to him as Father. In Season 4, Hexadecimal's powers over nulls allowed him to regain his sentient mind and mold with other nulls to form a body. While catching up with his family, the young Enzo was found to have adapted to his dad's transformation quite well. Dad's a null monster now. It's so cool! Though Fung informed Wellman of Matrix also being his son, there was no apparent interaction between the two during the series except for Matrix being glad his dad has returned. Since Wellman's ability to assert his personality is directly connected to Hexadecimal's well-being, she imbued young Enzo's icon with the same function before sacrificing herself to undo Damon's net-wide infection. When Enzo encountered him, Wellman regained his sentient mind once more and became able to move around by controlling a nullbot, which he used to walk his daughter Dot down the aisle at her wedding. His robotic body is later infected by Megabyte at the end of Season 4 and used to capture the young Enzo as everyone is forced to flee to the catacombs after Megabyte infiltrates the principal's office. In Code of Honor, he is initially enslaved to Megabyte and goes missing after the villain is destroyed. A flashback of Damon Rising shows him rehearsing a lecture about his theories in an homage to Daniel Jackson from the Stargate movie and TV series. In fact, his gateway command even looks like a Stargate. And that is it. Woo! So, what do you think of the show?
This show sounds very creative and very, very mature.
Very much so. So when I try to rewatch it, I think my mistake was I only watched the first season, and it's very much. You can definitely tell the difference in tone. That first season is more like I said, it's more episodic. It's more kind of hokey and whatnot. It's when it gets into season 2 and it starts getting darker. It's when it really gets good.
Did you watch all seasons though?
So I watched the first 2 seasons when they were on, and after that, it's I would catch up with syndication, but I've never seen every episode.
Well, sounds like you got a lot to catch up.
I like a lot of the stuff when Andrea and Enzo go into the. They can get older. I've seen some episodes, but I haven't seen everything just because of how it aired and stuff like that. Yeah.
All right.
Well, all right. Well, enough of me talking. I've done it for an hour. What is your topic for next time?
Oh, the poor guy talks for only 1 hour and he starts complaining about it. Try doing what I do on Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
That's your choice.
And I love it. All right, so something I will be talking about next week is, we're still technically in the month of February, which of course is still Black History Month, and I decided to pull something else from Israeli history that also kind of ties into the African continent, and I'm of course talking about the very relevant to today's historical event, Operation Entebbe. Have you ever heard of this?
Sorry, what was it called again?
Operation Entebbe.
I can't say I have, no.
For the record, Entebbe is the capital city of Uganda. So, this, like I said, it's very relevant to what is currently happening today in this region. And I think talking about it is just going to spoil what the story is. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to move on to the plugs, if you will.
All right.
Okay, so as for plugs, you can find me every Thursday on this show, Found with Flags, and every Monday on the other show on this channel called The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, where I talk about the greatest show in the galaxy, Doctor Who, and I talk even more Doctor Who on my own YouTube channel, 50 Shades of Geek. I do weekly reviews of every single Doctor Who episode from 1963 all the way to 2023, provided, of course, the BBC doesn't block the episodes as soon as they upload them because they're assholes. And I also did a couple of trailer reactions recently. I'm slowly starting to get back into that, and I also did a in the theater before and after review of Madam Web, the new Marvel movie.
And if you want to know 50's thoughts on that, all you have to do is look at the thumbnail.
Yeah, it was like usually YouTube selected thumbnails suck. This is one of the only few times where I'm like, perfect.
I was thinking about going and seeing here because I'm an easy film fan. Like a lot of that stuff doesn't really go into my enjoyment of a movie. But after seeing your face on the thing, I'm like, I think I'm just gonna wait till it comes out.
Okay, to be fair to the movie, I was trying to remember something that was related to the movie. Okay,
yeah.
I was trying to remember something, and that's why I made that face. It wasn't a comment about the movie itself.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't heard many good things, so I'm just gonna wait till it comes out on streaming.
Just watch my review, and you'll get everything you need.
Pretty much. And as for myself, you can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. You can find me on this channel doing my usual shenanigans with 50. And yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Yeah, and you can also check out all the other wonderful channels on the wider Benverse at large, like Something to Talk About, Galaxy Geeks, Multiverse of the Movie Lovers Unite, the Midnight Cinema, Item Reviews, and of course, In the Front Row, which is still not pictured anywhere near this thumbnail. And would you like to do
Yeah.
the Ben?
And as usual, we're always doing this for our good friend Ben, who's been gone with us for over a year now. Everything we do is always in memory of him, man. Not a day goes by that we don't miss him. Some days more than others, but he's always with us. We'll see you again, my friend.
Do you think he saw the show?
He saw this show. He's probably seen every episode we've ever done.
Right. No, I'm talking reboot. I'm talking
reboot. He's of the age that he might have, but I don't think he did.
All right.
It did air in the States when we were kids. Me and Ben were the same age. So he might have been aware of it, but I'm not sure he saw it.
Do you think he would have liked it if he saw it?
Maybe once they started getting into story arcs, he might have.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he would have gotten a lot of the references because it's very much a '90s show.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if that's everything, then let's wrap it up.
Cool.
All right. So. Yeah. I was gonna say, see you next week, folks. Have a good week. Don't forget to let your geek flag fly. Because that's all we ever ask of you. You gonna do the thing or me?
It's your turn, so I thought you were going to do it.
Come on, folks.